Hello.
Hello, Moshe.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Okay, okay, hanging in there.
Good to see you.
Likewise. Hold on a second. Just put it back to here we are. Okay. Hope you had a good weekend, or you're still on the weekend, right?
Oh, well, it's still the weekend, yeah, technically.
Okay, hold on one second.
How was yours?
Okay, good, very good. Thank God.
I read a
Quiet.
little bit about Jewish traditions on Shabbat yesterday.
Oh, very nice, very
Yeah,
nice. Good. A whole education.
yeah. It's a little bit like a new world to me in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot to a lot to read about. Okay, let
yeah.
me go and find your questions here. One second. Here we go. Um, okay, here we go. Okay. All right, I'll just start from the top again. We'll just go through and
Okay.
see as many as we can get through. Um, okay, so as far as international law is concerned, and the bombing of hospitals and things like that, that was the first thing that you asked about. So I'm not an expert. I'm sure there are people who know much better than I do, as far as what the actual laws are. From what I've read, just mostly on Twitter and articles and things like that, is that if there's a dual use, if there's a military use for a school or for a hospital or for any other civilian type of a structure, then there has to be a warning that's given. It's not allowed to be bombed without any warning or attacked without prior notice to the people that are there. But from what I understand, that with prior announcement and prior notice and telling the people that this place is being used as a military function for military functions, then it is not against international law to bomb. I know that the Army, the IDF, has a whole legal department that's not part of the chain of command, meaning it's not they don't answer to the generals, they don't answer to the other people in the army. They're their own independent legal system, and they have to okay any of the questionable types of things that are going on. But I'm assuming that you've seen, again, I don't know what you see. We have very different Twitter feeds. You know what I mean? So I tried to just like bookmark a whole bunch of things to
Yeah,
show
I did
you.
the same. I did the same. I did the
Oh,
same.
okay, great, great. So let me just see. I'm trying to see, how do I find my bookmarks though? I'm looking.
I bookmarked so many things we will never have time to go through it all.
Let me see if I could find here where that's very interesting. I see that I'm on. Oh, right here. No. Um, Maybe over here. Here's bookmarks. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me share this with you. And give me one second. Share the screen. Okay, so this we'll get to this after soon. But here, okay, so these are just from a few things that from the past few days. So here, this is a residential neighborhood. Um,
Mhm.
there, in one room, rockets are being made. In the other room, children are
I
sleeping.
saw this one. I saw this one.
Right? So this is like, literally in a residential building that's full of families and people that are living there. And from one room to the next, there's an entire rocket, rocket construction
Mhm.
facility. It's, what I mean? It's like
Okay.
outrageous.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe I will be the advocate of the devil, but
yeah, go.
Gaza is so small. If anybody wants to resist Israel militarily, where should they be? Like standing in the
So
middle, like
again, again,
shoot us.
well, very
Where
good.
should
Okay,
they
so
be? Where should they be?
two things. Okay, so first
They
of
don't have
all,
forts.
Gaza, they have plenty of big mansions and villas on nice big plots of land. There are equestrian schools, horseback riding schools. There's
Yeah,
plenty
you
of
keep saying that.
space. Well, I understand, but that means that there's plenty of space for stuff that they need. Gaza has been constructed literally into a military city. In every single corner of the place, there's no distinction or discrimination between residential and military, and that's not because they ran out of space. That's by design because
Mhm.
they know that Israel is going to have to attack or not attack a mosque or a school or a hospital, and they know that when they do that, they get great press.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? It's not
mhm,
a coincidence or just oops, we have no other space to do it, so let's put it in a kindergarten, right?
mhm.
Like again, here's a school. This is a school. The video, I don't know if you saw this one as well, but this is a school, a science room in a school, and literally with the camera still going, there's no tricks of the camera here. They go from one room to the
I hope
next.
so.
There's a whole weapon storage. She's walking through
Mhm.
the room to the next room, yeah, in a school.
Well, knowing all this, is it really the best option to bomb an
Well,
area
so
like this?
but again, so then that's it. So we can't. So that we just can't bomb. We just have to let them keep on sending rockets, keep on shooting at us, keep on sending. Because what can we do?
But
They've surrounded
there
themselves.
must
They
be
surrounded themselves with human shields.
sorry,
So
but there must be other ways. I
well, so
read I
when
read
you
I read a little bit about the income stream of Hamas. Apparently, these guys invest money in companies in foreign countries. I saw Algeria. Is Israel doing something to tackle this, to stop them from having money?
I'm assuming Israel does whatever it can to do what they can in order to affect them. But here's another one. Here's in the Gaza. This is one is by a university. One is by an amusement park. You see, there's a Ferris wheel in the amusement park, and right next to the Ferris wheel, a few meters away, there's an entrance to one of the tunnels. There's no stopping it. There's just
I don't contest this. I don't contest this.
but understand, but so okay. So then, to answer your question, so then no, it's not a war crime to bomb an amusement park or a kindergarten or a hospital or a school or a university or a residential building. It's not a war crime if it's being
Okay,
used as a
but why
military
do it?
installation.
Why do it? Why do it? Why?
So
Knowing that you
what's the
kill
what is
children,
the other option? Tell me what
knowing
the
that
other
you kill
option is.
children.
They've begged them to leave. They've begged them to go down to the south, and many tens of thousands have. Thank God. Thank God, tens of thousands of people have taken Israel up and moved
But
down
they are
to
not
the south.
safe there. They are
But
not
this is
safe there. They are not
for now.
safe
They
there.
are. Yes, right now they are safe there. That's also. I'll show you a video of.
1.7 million people have been displaced. This is huge. It's a huge number.
Well, I understand, but this is like what I keep on saying to you. People like Doctors Without Borders, people like Kim Iverson, people like you, you've had 15 years to complain about Hamas doing this. You've had 15 years to complain about Hamas installing their military. Why don't you listen, guys? I understand you want to attack Israel. I understand you want to commit terror, but don't do it at the expense of your civilians. How come you don't do that? How come nobody does that? How come Doctors Without Borders is only complaining now that Israel's attacking Shifa Hospital? And you're going to see underneath Shifa Hospital is their headquarters. That's Hamas headquarters built into a hospital. So
Okay,
yes, it's a
how
terrible, terrible tragedy. But like I said, it's like too little, too late. You guys had 20
in your
years
opinion then? Wait, in your opinion then, what would be a legitimate way for Hamas to attack? What would be legitimate? What would you accept as a legitimate form of
like
military
every other
resistance?
country in the world where you have a military that works out of military places and you don't embed
I
your
don't think
military
they have the
among the
option.
civilians.
I don't think they have the option to build a regular army that can match Israel on a
Yeah,
normal
yeah,
battlefield. They
I,
don't
I
have that
understand.
option.
So I know, but so I just want to get this clear. So your argument is that because they're a terrorist army and because they can't build an army that can actually beat Israel, so they have no choice except to embed among civilians and bring death and destruction on their civilians. That's what you're telling me.
I think that they're operating in their own context. They don't have tanks. They don't have an air force. It's debatable if they should be attacking Israel. I'm not saying that they should be doing that, but in their context, what kind of option do they have to fight Israel militarily?
Well, I mean,
Logically, this is the only thing they could be doing. And I'm not saying that I agree. I think it would probably be much smarter to not do that. But if you're going to do that in their position, not having tanks, not having a regular air force, being outmatched in every possible way,
so let
what
me
can you
ask
do
you.
then?
So I want to ask you something. Let's say
Yeah,
you are Doctors Without Borders. Okay, let's just
yeah.
say you William you are in charge. You're the head. It's your organization, Doctors Without Borders, and you go around and you try to best as you can to help civilians in all different conflict zones in the world. Okay, and now you're in Gaza. Now, okay, we're not going to talk whether they should be attacking or not. We discussed that last time. If they wanted to, they could have set up a tourist industry over there. They could have done anything that they wanted to, but they decided to be militant. Okay, let's just leave that on the side for now. Okay.
This is
Now,
also debatable.
okay,
Like I
let's get
agreed with you,
step by
but
step.
some people disagree there.
Okay, well
Some
let's
people
get back to that.
disagree that they had that option, but okay.
Okay, we'll get
Okay.
that. We'll get back to that step by step. Okay, so now
Okay.
you're Mister. You're not doctor. You're Doctors Without Borders, Doctor MSF. You're over there in Gaza, and you're working in Shifa Hospital, and you see every day people with guns and rocket launchers coming into the hospital, going down into the tunnels, coming up, going out, going in, coming out, going in, all over the place. So you're telling me that's a war crime, right? There's no question. That's a war crime. That's against the Geneva Convention. That is absolutely, explicitly a war crime. There's no justification for that. There's nowhere does it say in the Geneva Convention that if you're a militant group and you have no other place to go, so then you're allowed to set up in a hospital. It doesn't say that anywhere, right? It doesn't. So
I suppose I don't know.
okay, I also don't know for sure, but I'm going to assume that it doesn't say that anywhere.
Hmm.
So
It sounds reasonable.
it sounds reasonable. So for 15 years, you've been working in Shifa Hospital and you're seeing militants come and go. You're seeing weapon storage happening there. The UN schools, this has been going on for decades. The UNRWA schools, UNWRA schools, that they find rockets, they find all sorts of weapons that are there. So you're saying, no, instead of raising the alarm and bringing pressure on Hamas and bringing pressure on them and saying, hey, listen, you're endangering your population by doing this, you're saying the legitimate thing for these organizations, for these NGOs, for them to do is to say, well, what choice do they have? What choice do they have? So let's let it be. So then let them be in the hospitals, let them be in the kindergartens, let them be in the high schools. What else do we do? What else can we do? That you're saying that's a legitimate approach.
I need to think about this.
Okay, okay, but I don't think I don't think it's legitimate. I think that for many years, people who were in positions of authority, people who were in positions to know what was going on, and of course they know what was going on, they could have tried to bring pressure, international pressure, to say, don't do this. If you want to attack Israel, you want to be terrorists, you want to fire rockets, which is also a war crime, sending rockets indiscriminately into civilian areas. You want to do all that, fine, but don't do it at the expense of your people. But nobody did that. Nobody stood up and said, for 15 years now, this is wrong. Don't You are doing the war crimes. So now we find ourselves in a situation that Israel's fed up, right? They've had enough of this, and all the previous wars and all the previous bombing campaigns where they didn't bomb the mosques and they tried to avoid all of these things. They said, too bad. This time we are finishing the job. And
Mm.
everybody knows that Shifa Hospital is their base. Everybody knows this. Though this is not a secret, right? So
Well,
what is the
I see many people contest this. Like you
okay?
are
But
not a
that's
fan of these people, but somebody like Max Blumenthal, I see him share a video inside a hospital. Israel claims Hamas is operating there, and he claims, you see one guy waving a baton, and it's supposed to be a machine gun, but you can clearly see it's a
so,
baton.
let me ask you something. So how come they just didn't go into the hospital? Who are they fighting with outside the hospital, William? Who are they fighting? Why don't they just go into the hospital and kill everybody if that's what they want to do? Who are they behind
But
barricades
again,
shooting and fighting against? Who?
my starting position is, and I've told you this many times, and tell me if this is naive. Maybe this is completely impossible. What I'm saying, um, I was hoping that Israel would create safe havens, even if it has to be on ships or I don't know where,
They
to
did.
to
They do. They
to
did.
take
They are.
away,
They
depopulate, not send them south where there's nothing, basically sending them out to starve, but create real safe havens, and make sure that Hamas loses its population, and then bomb them. Maybe it's naive. I don't know.
I don't know.
I know that whatever I'm saying is heavily influenced by these videos I see from children being bombed. One was extremely horrible. It's haunting me. I wrote about it,
I read what you
and
described.
then I just, something in me is like, there must be some other way. There must be. This cannot happen. We cannot accept this.
So I want to I want to go to that video that you described, and that there was no social media in World War II, right? I'm saying we didn't have this, but I mean, you don't think that in Germany when the Allies were
Yeah,
bombing
I've
Germany.
heard this argument before.
I'm
When I
just saying, you
read
don't think that they
when I
were
read about the bombing of Dresden, I also think like, why did Dresden have to be targeted this way? Like, maybe it was also total overkill.
okay.
February 1945, Nazi Germany is on its knees and then bombed Dresden in several waves.
Okay. Let's say not Dresden.
The largest fire created by humans. You know,
Okay.
pilots thought it was day during the night because the fire was so big. I mean, lots of women and children died. What for? I don't really know.
Let's say, leaving Dresden aside, in any war that we've
That's just
ever
one
had,
example, of course.
and during the Blitz, when the Germans were bombing
Yeah,
Britain, there
horrible.
were
Yeah, yeah,
also children.
scandalous. Yeah.
Yeah, so well, yes, scandalous, of course, when they're doing it as an offensive move to try to break the British morale. But Israel here is going in with a very, very clear goal. Their goal is not to kill the civilians. Like I said many times, if they were bombing indiscriminately and they were, there would be tens and hundreds of thousands of casualties. But they warn them before they blow up a building. They drop an empty bomb,
Yeah,
an empty
but
shell on the building to tell the
I
people
know,
to
no,
get out.
yeah, like
So
knocking on the door.
I
Yeah,
understand, but like
yeah.
no other army in the world does these things to try to protect the civilians. They just don't do it. It doesn't add up with your narrative. It does. Do you understand what I'm saying? That it just doesn't make sense.
I'm listening.
The
I'm
narrative
willing
that
to learn from you.
Israel is a bloodthirsty baby killing. This is what they want to do. They just want to destroy them. It does not add up with the narrative of warning the people, telling the people in advance. And obviously, we know that when we warn them and tell them, we're giving the bad guys a chance to get away. Right? That's obvious. We're giving the terrorists a chance to pack up and run away together with the civilians. Right? But they do this consistently every single time for years and years and years because they feel for these civilians. They feel that it's outrageous what Hamas is doing to them. It's outrageous that the world has, like I keep saying, for 15 years stood by and just let them embed their entire military infrastructure in the civilian population. And now we're the ones, not me, thank God I'm not fighting there, but we're the ones that have to now, like thread the needle and do what we can to kill the terrorists, to take away their weapons, to take away their infrastructure, and do whatever we can to try and not kill as many civilians as can be killed. It's asking an impossible task. And this is the point that we keep on going back to, you and me,
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
I feel for those children. I feel that it's an awful, terrible thing. And I blame Hamas. I blame Hamas for
I
putting them
don't.
in.
No, not
I understand.
entirely. Not
I
entirely.
understand.
Not
But
entirely.
what's the other option? What should they be doing differently? What should they be doing? What could Israel be doing? Right? They're not bombing Shifa Hospital from the air. They're not, right? They didn't drop tons of bombs on Shifa Hospital. Now there's troops.
I don't know. I'm not so sure. I don't know. I
I
don't
know
know.
that's where
Or
they're
honestly, I don't
there
know.
now. They're there. They're physically there
Mhm.
outside the hospital. They have it
Mhm.
surrounded except for one side, so people have a place to go. They just said that they're taking out all the babies tomorrow. They're providing safe passage for the babies to get out to go to other hospitals. The Israeli army is going to be transporting those Gazan babies to a different hospital. They need to go into that place and clean it up. That's what they have to do. They're not bombing it to the ground.
Okay.
Of course,
Okay.
if they wanted to, they
So,
could have. If they wanted to drop a bunker buster on Shifa, they could have flattened the whole hospital and be finished with it.
well,
But
the
that's
whole
not what
world
they're
is
doing.
watching. The whole world is watching. Of course, they don't do
The
that.
whole world is
You know?
accusing us of genocide anyway. So who cares? At this point, I don't think they care what the world has to say about it. They're whatever we do, they're telling us we're
Was it in
genocides.
your
And
opinion? In your opinion, was it an option to after the events of October 7th to tighten the blockade, maybe get in some kind of international peace force, somehow disarm Hamas? I don't know, but without going in there, without bombing, is there any option, anything in your opinion that could have been done to prevent this? One
I have
million seven
no,
hundred thousand people displaced. They're not
I
all
have
Hamas.
no I certainly agree they're not all Hamas. I have no idea. I know that this is a situation that Israel has been dealing with for almost 20 years, been begging the international community, like I keep telling you, begging the international community instead of pointing fingers at us. Tell Hamas to get out of the civilian areas. Tell Hamas to move their headquarters out of the hospital. It's absurd. It's an absurd
Mhm.
situation that the whole world knew that this was happening for a decade and just sat by and yells at us every time an innocent civilian gets killed in Gaza. It's just, it's absurd. It's really absurd to me. It does not make any sense at all. They had years and years and years to put that exactly what you're describing, this international pressure, and do something, but nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody did anything about it. And now
Mhm.
it's too late, and it's a terrible situation. But the people like Doctors Without Borders, and they're sending all these, it's awful what's happening to the people. But every time I see it, I tweet that I blame them. Where were you for the past 15 years? Why weren't you calling out the war crimes that you saw in front of your eyes? You saw that they're storing, rockets and missiles in your hospitals, and you just go along with it. Where were you?
Mhm. And what do you make of people that blame Israel for creating Hamas, for creating a context where people want to be terrorists, like
This is
stealing
we
land,
keep going back to this.
blockading them?
This goes back to the very very beginning. The approach of terrorism, the approach of butchering the Israelis, the Jews that were trying to come. Israel didn't create. It's been going on since 1920s, and it didn't stop. And in 1948, they tried to do a genocidal war. There was no blockade. There was no occupation. There was nothing when they were trying to wipe us out and say it was going to be a momentous massacre like the
And
Mongolians
and
and like this
and
has been going on for decades and decades and
yeah,
decades. It's not just
you
something that's
know you know as well as I do that people, lots of people disagree. The first comments I got on our conversations were that you are lying, that I don't
about
criticize
what?
you
Tell me
enough. Wait,
about
wait, wait,
what?
wait,
What?
wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait, wait. That I don't criticize you enough. One friend said, "You should criticize him after every sentence." Like we wouldn't have a conversation if I would do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to stop you in every sentence. So, why is it so hard to convince people that it's like this? That Arabs, these Arab nations, had a plan to wipe all Jews off the map there. Because not
I don't.
many, I
I
don't
think
see many people believing this. Like, why
they
not?
don't
If
know
this is
it.
a historical
I,
fact, like, what's so
of course, it's a
so?
historical fact. Look at any.
Where's the problem?
You tell me. Why don't you ask them? Ask them to explain
Yeah,
the headlines. Arabs
they
invade
claim
Palestine.
they claim that this is all about who started first, and the one who started first should be punished like incredibly
So
much.
tell me, what do they
Yeah,
claim? Tell me
so
what they claim. What do they claim?
they claim that the Jews started.
Started
Then
what? Started what?
like
What did we start?
attacking, killing, genocide, and then these
We
Arabs reacted.
attacked Iraq and Egypt and
No,
Jordan
no.
and Syria and
Arabs in the area. Arabs in the area.
when? When did we attack Arabs in the area? Tell me, when
Yeah,
did that start?
before 48.
So in
That's what they claim.
1929,
I'm saying I'm just
when
repeating what they claim.
well, so I'm
Yeah,
asking you to
I've sent you the screenshots, right?
I see, but
Yeah.
nobody has any facts. I showed
I
you
that I
newspapers
keep pushing.
from. Okay, so I'm
Hey, to be
asking you.
fair,
I showed you
I
newspapers
keep
from
pushing them.
1929.
Wait. I keep pushing them when they accuse you of lying. I keep pushing them to tell me where they think you are lying, and to tell me what they think went on then. And as you can see, okay, nothing has been forthcoming.
Okay, so I'm waiting to see it, but
Yeah.
I've showed you evidence. I've showed you I didn't make up those newspapers. I'm not doing it on Photoshop, right? There's newspapers from 1929, the Hebron massacre, the Nabi Samuel massacre. I admitted, I said to you, yes, there were Jewish terrorists that did terrible things also, but they did. That's not when it started. That was after it was going. There was no Arabs that were killed en masse before 1929. That just didn't happen. Like I told you,
Mhm,
it was the Ottomans before that in the 1800s
mhm,
when the Jews started coming in. It was Ottoman land. There was nobody was starting up with the
mhm,
Ottomans. We bought
mhm.
land. We moved there
Yeah,
legally,
you mentioned all
purchased
that,
land,
and I don't contest that.
right.
So,
Well, so if your
um,
friends are contesting
but
it, so
then
show me the evidence. Show me where they're coming from.
these people are not necessarily my friends. Some are, but not all of them.
Okay, I
Yeah,
don't mean your
yeah,
friends. I'm just
yeah,
saying
yeah.
people.
And then
Ask them to show you evidence. That's what we're doing here. We're talking. We're not just making stuff up and saying liar, liar, pants
mhm,
on fire.
mhm,
Show me
mhm,
evidence.
mhm,
You know what I mean?
mhm,
And if you'll prove
mhm.
me wrong, you told me I want to hear more
Well,
about it. You
one
told
of
me
the
about
things,
that book, the
one of the
Belgian
things I
author.
yeah,
I'm
one
sorry,
of the
just like
things
you. Yeah,
I
go
know,
ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I bookmarked is apparently some video where they interview IDF, or I don't know if it was the IDF back then, Jewish fighters who fought against Arabs, and they're old now, and you can see them smile, and it's obvious they're smiling, they're happy, and they're talking about what they did to Arabs.
Atrocities,
It's
terrible
really
things. I told
awful.
you.
It's
Yes,
really awful,
yes,
and they're
yes,
smiling.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I told you
Well,
this happened. There's no question. There were bits and pieces of things like that that happened, but this was not. And again, this is only after 1948. It was not before the attack happened. Like I said to you, we're talking about people who had just been through the Holocaust, and now they're coming here, and the Arabs are proclaiming another Holocaust against them. Again, I don't condone it, and I don't celebrate it, and I don't anything like that. At the same time, I could understand how it happened, but it's a terrible, terrible thing. And like I told you, there's nowhere in Israel that we're naming streets after those people. There's nowhere in
I know.
Israel that
You've
we're
told me this many
celebrating
times.
them. Well, I understand because it's
Yeah.
true.
Hmm.
Because it's
Hmm.
true. Because that's not
Hmm.
our culture. That's not what we do. And if there were atrocities that are committed, that's a terrible thing. And those people should be. It's disgusting if there's a person who's smiling while he's talking about shooting. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen these interviews as well. I don't deny that that happened. However, that's in a much broader context of a lot of atrocities that were happening all around. It wasn't just a one-sided thing that the Jews killed a whole lot of innocent people and that was it. That's not at all the situation. This was after years and years and years of attacks and pogroms and siding with Hitler and all of those things is what predated that. You know what I mean? So that's I don't deny that that happened, but that's not the story. That's not what got us into the situation that we're in today. Why don't you ask your friends why did the Arabs turn down the UN resolution? Why did they turn down the state that they were offered in 1948? Why? Why did they do that?
I honestly think they don't know enough about this.
Okay, so hopefully you can help to educate them, and we'll continue. Okay, so let's see question number two. That's question number one. Is I don't think it's a war crime. I agree with you that it's very very bad for propaganda and it's very bad for PR. And I assume that Israel knows that also, the army, and if they had another way of doing this, they would. I think there's another piece which, like I told you last time, that Westerners don't really appreciate or understand. But in a lot of these cultures, they respond to force. They don't respond to, they don't respond to negotiations I think if Israel was not responding as strongly as they were, Hezbollah would have invaded by now in the north. I think it's only because Israel is showing a very, very strong response that Hezbollah is, backing up and not doing anything worse. But again, I don't know. I don't know all the calculations. I'm sure that's part of it.
I told you that yesterday. I watched the whole interview, 90 minutes, with a scholar on Islam, and he makes a rather convincing case that historically Islam is actually a religion of peace, and that the Jewish faith and Muslim faith have a lot in common. That they have more in common than the Jewish faith and Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this that the Jews under the Ottoman Empire did much better than they did under Christian Europe, for sure. That's for sure. But that changed in 1948. That changed in the, I mean,
But
after 19.
what exactly changed there then? Like people woke up and thought, okay, if the Germans can do it, we can do it too, or what changed? You say they lived in peace, and I believe you for a very long time, and then all of a sudden, oh no, let's kill them.
Well, because I think Britain before, during World War One stoked the nationalist feelings among the Arabs, just like they did with the Jews with the Balfour Declaration. And I
And we
think
talked.
at that point, the Arabs were much more empowered and much more felt that they deserved their own places and they deserved their own land. And I'm sure they didn't want the Jews coming in. I'm sure they didn't want to have the Jews be settling in this land that they wanted for themselves. I have no doubt about it. I'm sure that it's because the Jews were coming that the Arabs got upset. I don't think that that's
So
that.
so
I don't
essentially,
think
it's
it's
essentially it's a
unrelated.
conflict over land.
I think from their perspective, it's a conflict over land. I think from the
And
Jewish
from your
perspective,
perspective,
they just wanted to be here. We didn't start any conflict. That's exactly what I keep on saying. We were not conflicted. We were conflicting with the British. Yes, there was a conflict with the British when we wanted the British were not letting people move here, and people were dying in the Holocaust because England wasn't letting them emigrate to Israel, to Palestine. Yeah, so that there was a big conflict with the British, but we accepted the UN partition. Israel and the government. We didn't say no. We're going to fight for every bit of land. We're going to fight for Gaza. We're going to fight for Transjordan. We didn't do that. That's not what happened. That wasn't
Okay,
until
you
1967 when
know
they
more,
had a defense.
you know more about this than me, of course. So please tell me, what exactly was that deal that you accepted, that Israel accepted?
There was an earlier version which we didn't even speak about, the Peel Commission. This was still when it was under Britain, but in 1947 the UN voted. There was a UN vote whether to partition the state of the state of what was then Palestine, whether to partition it into two things. I showed you the map. It was a very ugly map, a messy map, right, with the
Mhm.
three different plots of land. And Israel was going to get the coastal region in the north and the desert in the south, and the Arabs were going to get what's today the West Bank, Gaza, and a big chunk of the north of Israel. And that's the world voted on that, a partition to the UN. The world accepted the plan. If they would have voted it down, I don't know what would have happened today, but they didn't. They accepted it. The UN ratified it as a let's this is what we're going to do, and the Jews accepted it. They accepted it. That's it. They were very excited and happy to finally have their own place. I told you for those few years, 1945 to 1948, 49, those are few years where there was a lot of sympathy to the Jews because everyone saw what happened in the Holocaust and people saw how many people were killed and that nobody helped them and nobody took them into their countries, etc. The world, and I told you also there were about 1 million people in displaced person camp all over Europe that had nowhere to go. So the world saw that there was a need to establish a place for these Jewish people to go. So the world accepted it, and the Arabs didn't. That's where it started. I mean, you know what I mean? The violence didn't start then, but the current situation that we have today started in 19. If they would have just said yes, if the you know what I mean, if the Arabs would have just said okay, we'll accept it. We're not happy about it, but we'll accept it. So then we would have two states. They would be living side by side, and you know what I mean. There would have been no wars, but the
I
war
think
hasn't stopped since 1948.
I think the liberal view there is that there's this idea that land was stolen, and that they should have just accepted this. Like, we lost land to these incoming
But
Jews,
again, it wasn't
and
their
we
land. It
should
was the
accept that.
Ottoman land. It wasn't
Yes,
theirs.
I
It was the
know. Yes, I know.
Ottomans
But
and then the British. And then,
I'm explaining
no,
how
okay, yes,
people
they
view
use
this.
all
The
these
people
words. They
view
call it
this
colonial. I
this
know,
way.
but it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
just wrong. I understand that people say it, but it's
Hmm.
it's false. It's
Well,
a
I
it's
want to hear from you again that
yes.
at that point no land was stolen.
Land was not stolen. The Jewish people that were, again, it was Britain. It was a British colony. It was Britain could have kicked out or let in anybody that they wanted to. And the world decided, they drew up a map, and the world and the UN voted that this is how we're going to divide up the land. Nobody was told if they were Arabs living in the Jewish part, you're going to have to leave. That didn't happen until today. There are many Arabs who didn't leave, and we have
Hmm.
2+ million Arabs still that
Hmm.
are here, right?
Hmm.
That's exactly how it happened. Then afterwards, this we spoke about the first time, between 1948 and 1967. So then, yes, then there were places that were chased out. There were people that were killed or wiped out. And again, there's two sides to that. I'm telling you that some things were done that are not conscionable and not acceptable at all, but not all of it. There were places that were attacking, and the Israelis had to defend themselves against a village that was overlooking the highway, and they had to you know, fight that village away and get those people out of there because they were constantly killing our people. So it was an ongoing battle that was happening. And yes, during that time period, there were people that were kicked out, but not systematically. There was no ethnic cleansing. The only people that were ethnically cleansed are the Jews. And I keep on telling you this, that in 1948, not a single Jew was left in Jerusalem. Not a single Jew was left in the entire West Bank. Not a
Hmm.
single one. And then we never even spoke about this whole part of it, that in those years from 1948 to the early 1950s, over 850,000 Jews were expelled or chased out of every Arab country, from Lebanon, from Egypt, from Syria, from Iraq, from Morocco, from Yemen. There were 850,000 Jews that were literally chased out and expelled. Now, yes, there were times, there's a very famous thing called the Lavon affair, and maybe your people will tell you, oh, but the Zionists did it to themselves
Yeah, that's
because
what I
there
was
was
thinking. Huh?
okay, there's one situation that happened in Egypt where the Zionists did like a false flag attack and they bombed a movie theater. Yes, that happened, but that was one situation in one town out of 850,000 people. Speak to people like Gad Sad. I don't know. Do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
God said he's like he was born in Lebanon. His parents were in Lebanon for generations, and they were literally chased out by the Palestinian, the PLO when they moved into Lebanon, and literally chased out there and had to flee for their lives. I'll send you another video about a woman who also had the exact same experience, a Lebanese woman who grew up as a Christian in Lebanon, and her family was almost totally killed until the Israelis saved her, and she was able to then move to Israel and then to America. She was not even Jewish; she was Christian, a Christian Arab. But there was 850,000 Jews that had been living in Arab countries for generations, hundreds and hundreds of years throughout the whole Ottoman Empire. How many Jews today live in Morocco? How many Jews live in Yemen? How many Jews live in Iraq? How many Jews live in Egypt? How many Jews live in any of these places? A handful now, a small, tiny handful of people. What happened to all those Jews? They were kicked
Mm-hmm.
out. They were literally kicked out. More Jews lost their homes, literally, more Jews lost their homes and their businesses and their valuables and their property in all the Arab countries than Palestinians that were kicked out of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, there's no question about that.
And again, this is because the British stoked up this nationalism because
No,
before
after 1948 and the war, so then there was a huge tide of anti-Semitism at that point,
Mhm,
and people they just turned on the Jews, even though these are Jews that were in the Lebanese army, Jews that were in the armies for these other countries. They were good citizens for hundreds of years, and there was a massive wave of anti-Semitism that swept through the Arab world at that time. Literally, you could look all of this up. Nobody
mhm.
contests this. This is the only thing they'll
Well,
contest is
people contest this, of course.
well, no,
Everything is
they
contested. Everything.
well, again,
I told you the
not
only.
historically, not
I told you.
historically.
Yeah, okay.
People who don't know anything, they'll
Okay.
say this, but not
Well, yeah.
the
You
history
know,
of
the
this is
only
clear.
thing I'm really an expert on is the American Civil War, and
The Civil War, yes,
anything is contested.
yes.
You have people saying that Grant is a butcher, and you have people saying that Grant is a military genius. So everything is always contested.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. But the historical record of the fact that Jews had lived for hundreds and hundreds of years throughout the entire Ottoman Empire and all those Arab countries and Turkey, Moraga, and all those countries, and now there are no Jews in those countries.
Mhm,
So something happened, right? Something happened. And it wasn't just that they were, excited and Zionistic and they left. Many of them were patriotic and connected to their companies. They left. They left with nothing. They left all their property behind and their businesses behind, and they weren't like nomadic, Bedouins. They were people with companies and with, homes and businesses and everything, and they were chased out of their countries.
Well, yeah,
And
the anti-Israeli view is that the Zionists kind of orchestrated this, but
okay,
you're
so
telling
that's
me that this is not the case, no?
no. There was one famous thing, and this is what they point to: the Lavon affair that took place in Egypt. But it's absolutely that was not the cause of 850,000 Jews leaving their countries all around the Arab world. Absolutely not. Some of them leave voluntarily. I'm sure some of them, now that there was Israel, they were excited to come and move to Israel. I'm sure some of them did, right? But not the vast majority of them. These are people that lived there for generations. And that's why Israel, you have half of the country are Mizrahi Jews, Sephardic Jews, who originally came from Spain. But like you said, after the Inquisition in the 1400s, late 1400s, they left and they moved into the Ottoman Empire, and they were living there since the 1500s. For 400 years, they were living in the Arab lands, and then they, were literally kicked out. And until today, all of those countries, like I left on the voice note today, you can't even set foot in that country as a Jew. They won't let you. You can't an Israeli passport. They won't let you into the country. Nobody
Mhm.
seems to care about that. It's only the Israel who's ethnically cleansing when we've got 2 million Arabs here and not a single Jew in those countries. But somehow or another, the world, it's us who are the bad guys. Somehow, I don't. I mean, I don't know.
I think I remember landing in Tel Aviv and they give you this stamp in your passport, and I think you could refuse if it could get you into trouble.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
correct. So now they stopped. They don't stamp anymore. Now it's all digital because if you had a stamp of Tel
because
Aviv, they wouldn't let you
my
into our Arab countries.
my
Exactly.
my
Exactly.
my girlfriend at the time was Iranian, and I think she refused because she wouldn't be able to travel to Iran if she had been to Israel or
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. That's what I mean. These are facts. That's a fact. But I mean, they literally won't let a person who came to Israel into their countries. They don't recognize Israel until today. Most of those countries don't recognize that Israel is a state. They don't recognize us as as an existence. They're still in the war since 1948. Literally, that's the case with Iraq. That's the case. Egypt. We made peace. Lebanon, Jordan, rather, we made peace. But Syria, Lebanon, all those other countries, until the Abraham Accords, right? The Abraham Accords, that's Morocco and the UAE. That was a huge breakthrough. That was a huge, change in the world. But until then, all of those countries refused to accept that Israel even existed. And the world doesn't seem to care about that. They didn't just care that you've got a billion people in all of those countries that refuse to recognize that we have a right to exist. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's just how the world has been.
And
Okay,
what
let's
is
go.
their argumentation there? Like there must be
Who's
some
them?
kind of argumentation. They don't just say we don't recognize Israel. Like what is their reason? Their
Yes, they
official
do.
reason?
Yes, they do. They say we are colonial. We're a throwback to the colonial, days, and we have no business to be here, no right to be here, and they don't recognize that we have a right to be here. That's it.
Well, I think when people see what Israel does in the West Bank, that many people,
Okay, but
some
this
of
is
my
going
friends
back. The West
included,
Bank
some of
wasn't
my
until
friends
19.
included, they agree
Talk
that
about
this
the
is
first
colonialism.
30 years of the country when there was no West Bank, right? It was like this before 1967. That's why that's a bogus argument because until 1967 there was no West Bank. Jordan had the West Bank, and all of these things were the same. So that's baloney. That's the same
Hmm.
thing with the blockade. Why it's baloney because all of this existed before all of this. That's what I keep on saying. There was all of this. The genocidal war wasn't
Hmm.
because of the blockade or the occupation. The not allowing the Jews in those countries has nothing to do with the blockade or the occupation. All of those things only came later, much later. So
Hmm.
now that's what they'll
Hmm.
point to because now it's a convenient thing to point to. But it's a lie because it existed before that happened. It existed.
Hmm. But
Okay.
you agree
Question number two.
that what Israel is doing in the West Bank, this settler aggression against Palestinians, is real. There
I,
you
I
agree.
I agree that there are problems. I definitely agree that there are problems. But like we spoke about this a bit last time. Also, I don't agree that every instance that you're pointing to is the way that it's portrayed, the way that you're describing it. Just like everything else that you're hearing about and learning about and understanding about, there's more to that story. Also, again, that doesn't mean that everything is okay. I'm sure there are terrible things that are done. I'm sure that there are people at checkpoints that humiliate people and make them stand in the sun for hours and all of
Yeah, I
those
saw
things
that. Yeah.
for no reason. I'm sure that happens for no reason. However, there's much more to the story than that. Exactly like the few places or those bad Israeli soldiers that killed those people back in 1948. There's much more to the story than that, and it's the same thing with what's going on in the West Bank. It's exactly the
Hmm.
same thing. There's a lot more to it than that. It was not like this until the Intifada. Like I told you, in the 1980s and 1983, a person could leave from their home in
Hmm.
Ramallah, drive
Hmm.
through Jerusalem, through Ashdod, and go to the beach in Gaza. It was only once the Intifada started that changed. That's
Hmm.
again, these are facts.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's not a
Hmm.
disputed fact.
No, I believe you there. Mm. That's also
Okay.
what Palestinians themselves told me, that decades ago, like in 2009, they told me decades ago, or even a decade ago, you could easily mingle, you could make friends, you could.
Yes.
They kept mentioning that Palestinians and Jews have the same kind of humor. They kept mentioning that
Yes.
it was easy to
Yeah.
have relationships, and
Yeah.
all
It
that
changed
stopped.
with the,
All
the
that stopped.
Intifada
They
changed
told
it.
me.
Yeah, the Intifada.
Mhm.
Without the Intifada, this wouldn't have happened. That was
Mhm.
a violent uprising that had to be responded to, and that's where it
Mhm.
changed.
Yeah, I
Okay.
asked two Palestinian kids if they ever talked to Israelis, and they said once in Italy, because they were in the scouts and they met some Israeli scouts, and there they talked. And I asked them what was that like, and they said, "Yeah, it was great, it was fantastic." But they were living very close to an Israeli settlement, and I asked, "Do you ever talk to those?" And they said, "No, that's completely impossible. There's no way that we could ever meet. It's not possible. We are completely separated." And I asked,
Yeah.
"Is there any contact?" And they said, "Sometimes we chat." So, but literally, they were 200 meters away from their door.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
these situations are completely absurd.
Well, yeah, yes, it's absurd, and there's a way and a reason that it got to that. It
Yes,
didn't
yes,
just
I understand.
happen.
Yeah, they didn't wake up one day and okay, we can't talk to our
Exactly,
neighbors. Yeah.
exactly. There's a reason that it happened. Okay, so let's see. Number two, you said in one of our conversations, you said Hamas makes sure that any aid does not go to the civilians.
Yeah, this brings me back to this tweet where it, by the way, it got 250,000 views. This is crazy. Where
Wow.
you mentioned, yeah, Hamas doesn't give steals the morphine So the girl I'm describing who lost her legs and is writing in pain, you say Hamas took away the morphine. I'm prone to believe you. I think I see them capable of doing that totally. But still, to me, it doesn't justify that this girl loses her legs, probably won't survive.
No,
I
it
saw her.
doesn't. That's not.
I
It
saw her
doesn't justify
injuries.
it.
I don't think she will survive this.
It's not a matter of justifying it. It's a matter of let's understand, like we spoke last time. Let's
Well,
understand.
you said in your tweet, to be fair, that I never accused the real perpetrators, but to make you
Why there's
see
no
how I
morphine.
think,
I know, but Israel didn't steal the.
Hamas didn't drop a bomb on that girl.
I know, but you what you were focusing on. One of the things that you said is that there's no anesthetic for her, right?
That's
That was
one of
one
the
of the
things I said. That's one of the things I
yes.
said. No.
So my point was
Okay.
the reason that there's no
Yeah, you
anesthetic
were okay. Okay.
is not because of Israel, right? Israel
Yeah.
didn't steal the anesthetic from the
Well,
hospital. Right?
it to me it seemed like you were implying that it's like Hamas who tore off her legs. But okay,
Well,
now you
it's
focused on the
Hamas. It's
anesthetics.
Hamas who put themselves in a situation that she
Yeah.
needed to be bombed, and then it's Hamas who took away her
Well,
ability to
that's the
get
biggest
treatment.
difference.
So
That's
you know,
the biggest difference between us. This sounds to me like the terrorist made me do it, and I don't know why, but I find it hard to accept that
okay, but
thinking.
at the same time, you in all of our conversations, you've never come up with another approach. What could Israel do?
I
What
keep
could
saying
Israel do?
safe havens, blockading them,
They
international help.
did. They did.
Yeah.
They've created an entire corridor to let them go down to the south under their protection. They're feeding them. Israel is feeding them. Israel is providing them with shelter. They're not just letting them down there and say, "Go do your thing." That's one
But
of the videos that I'm gonna.
Israel receives all this money, and then to me this really amateuristic organization is able to break through this fence and do what it did.
That's a big question. I don't know how that happened. That's a very we discussed this. It's a very distressing question. I don't know how that happened. I hope we're going to come to a.
I suppose in talking to you, I'm realizing that apparently what I would have liked to see is that Israel is really effective at defending itself against these terrorist threats, but without bombing them. And you're telling me probably that's naive, and Israel should finish the job now, right?
Well, again, I think that we both agree that they if they wanted to, they could drop a bomb on the Shifa hospital and finish the job very quickly, right? But that's not what they're doing. They are not just blowing up the hospital and leveling it. They're doing everything that they can to try to get the civilians there to safety before they go in there physically. The soldiers.
Safety in an area where there's no food, the all supplies are running out. Like, where's the safety?
Well, like I said, Israel is feeding them. I'm looking right now while we're talking here. I'm looking for a video of this. This is a guy that I was here. One second. One second. No, okay, I can't find it now. Okay, hopefully I'll find this about
Okay.
a video of them feeding and providing food, providing shelter for the Palestinians that are going south. They're not just like saying go and do your thing. And there's also no question that Hamas has been stopping people from going south and shooting people and bombing the roads and everything. Now Israel is literally protecting the road going south so that they can get out.
You state this as a fact, but I'm not completely sure. I'm not completely sure if Hamas is doing that.
Okay, I don't know what to tell you. There's videos of that they said it was an airstrike, but there's no projectile, and there's a big fireball on the road from a bomb. That's not an airstrike. And there's
Yeah, but
pictures of.
there you really have two camps saying, "Ah, no, it's Hamas, no, it's Israel." And I'm no video expert, so I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I hear. I don't know.
Like when you're telling me that Hamas steals the morphine, there I'm like, yeah, probably.
That's
But
not me. That's a doctor. That's an
yeah,
Arab
I saw
doctor
that.
in the
I saw
hospital
that. I saw
saying
that.
it.
I
That's
believe you. I saw that. I saw that. Bombing their own roads to make them to stop them from fleeing. Maybe, but I am not sure.
There's
I'm not
video. I
sure.
don't know what to tell you. There's video of it again.
Yeah, but
You
there are
can,
many videos, and one camp says it's this, and one camp no, it's that. I mean, it's constant. It's constant. It's this, it's that. I saw people denying that that girl was wounded. You probably saw some comments. I don't know where some people claim, oh, she's an actress. She's faking it. No, everything
okay,
is
here I
being.
found it. Hold on one second. Here, 1 second. Here, let me open this for you. 1 second. I found what I was looking for. Right, this is a guy I don't even follow him. I think I'm going to start following him. This Yosef Haddad. He's an Arab soldier. Right? He's an Arab soldier in the Israeli army. Right, and this is them on the beach in South Gaza. Right, giving out food, giving water, giving supplies to the Palestinians that left.
My very cynical reaction is this is a PR campaign. Like I see some people receiving help. How am I to know that this is happening on a wider scale? There's lots of propaganda. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can laugh, but
Okay,
this this
I
proves
hear you.
very little. This proves very little to me. Sorry.
Well, they're
I
not
hope
gunning them down, right?
you're right.
They're not just
I
shooting
wish
down all
it's
these
true, but
civilians and murdering them. That's not what's happening, right? They're not
yeah,
killing them.
in this video, but just one video, I see 20, 30 people there. It's easy to do that. Sorry, but we live in an age where everything can be manipulated. Sorry, it's
Okay,
yeah,
I hear you. I hear you.
yeah.
So then, like I keep on saying, we have to see what's the what's consistent and what goes on consistently, and
I hope you're right. Really, I honestly hope you're right. I really hope you're right, and that Israel is feeding them. I hope so.
okay. All right, so let's go
I'm
to the
not
next.
this rabid Israel
I
hater. You
understand. Yes,
know,
I
I wouldn't be
understand.
talking to you otherwise.
You're very cynical. I definitely understand that. Okay,
I
number
I, I
three.
have a lot of cynicism. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
I
Okay.
admit it.
Yeah, so this is a question I have also, number three. I don't know what the answer is. For all this, you said that if they're raised to become martyrs, so why are all the parents upset and crying and devastated when their children die? So there's two things that I would say. Number one is for sure not all of them buy that, right? Not all of them buy into that, and I'm sure there's many parents who care for their children just like you and me and a
Yeah.
normal person does, who are not brainwashed, and I have no doubt that those people cry. Number two, there are many videos of people very proud of their martyred children. Many videos of Palestinian women.
I also see many videos of Israeli kids who are ready to kill.
Okay, but
Yeah,
that's okay. But you said
even
that.
on a link, even on a link you send me, I saw a comment like, yeah, I get the same vibe from this as when I see these Israeli kids talk about killing. This seems to be something that's also going on the Israeli side. Then
Okay,
you tell me those are exceptions. Those are
I
exceptions.
do,
Then I feel then I'm ready to use the same argument. Ah, exceptions.
okay, I know, but like I told you, I sort of have like a proof that these are exceptions because we don't
Why?
glorify this in our society. Our society is not, like putting up posters and street names and all of this. The few
Mhm,
people that have done horrific acts like Baruch Goldstein are vilified by every newspaper, every you know what I mean. That's not
mhm,
what happens in the Palestinian society. It's just not. I would love for that to be the case. I would love for them not to get money from the PA. I would love for them not to
mhm.
name streets after them. I'd love for them not to put their pictures up on posters. But that is what happens. So to me, that shows which one is the fringe and which one is the mainstream. Okay, you don't have to accept that, but to me, that definitely looks that way. I can only tell you as a person who lives here in Israel, and I have friends who are in the army, friends not in the army, many generations. Are there hateful people who say just kill them all? Of course there are. Of course there are. That is not the mainstream. That is not the. I mean,
Did you see that screenshot I send you, like somebody who watched our talks and sends me an Instagram link where you see Jews clearly being hateful, and you saw my response like, yeah, I know Moshe is going to condemn this. It's outrageous. Like I don't take it very seriously. Like you saw me pressuring her to give me a real list with real criticism of what you're saying, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
encouraging it. Keep encouraging it. Keep encouraging. Okay, next question, number four. There are rockets still coming out of Gaza. Israel should defend. Before I say what I mean, I saw rockets almost symbolic. If you are telling me what in a way your opinions change. Oh, okay. Have my opinions changed? Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. I'm definitely, well, two things. One maybe is not as good, but on the one hand, I'm definitely seeing that there's a lot of lack of
I guess
knowledge.
so somebody watching this probably didn't catch what's
Oh,
going
okay. I'm
on now.
sorry. Okay, yeah.
So
So I'll read it. I'll
what
read it
what
better.
I said was
Go,
that,
go ahead.
thanks to our conversations, uh, I am changing some of my opinions for sure, and I'm very thankful again for the opportunity we have here. And one of the things I've changed is, like, before I saw these rockets coming in as, sorry, almost like fireworks, like, hi, we are here, the Palestinians still exist, and these rockets are crappy. But you pointed out how every family has to invest some money to defend themselves, or to have some place in their house to be safe. How it disrupts daily life. I'm assuming, and
I'll show
there's
you.
this
I
very
can.
expensive. Yeah, I believe you, but you can show me.
Here's this. Here's our safe room. A big steel door.
Yeah,
The
exactly,
supplies in
exactly.
there and everything. This is
Yeah.
our bomb shelter.
Well, thanks to our conversations, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit or way more serious than I, safe in Europe, think it is.
Yes.
So
Yes. No.
so
Okay.
so
I
then my
appreciate that.
question to you is: have you also changed some of your views throughout these conversations?
So I think that my views about Israel I don't think have changed just because I haven't learned more about Israel. But what you've
Well, yeah,
taught
you
me.
live there.
Right. I say, yeah. So, but I think what you taught me is that I think that there's a lot more nuance, and it's the anti-Israel block is not ubiquitous. One, is many different people with
Yes,
many different
yes,
approaches and many
yes.
different you know views on many different aspects of it. And I think that's important for me to realize that not everybody sees everything the same. Like I was very surprised when we first started talking that like even that we spoke about a little bit today. There's many people that don't accept that Israel, even in the pre-67 borders, the original small state, that many people hold I thought that was almost everybody said that that's a colonial settler, endeavor, and that Israel doesn't have a right even to that. So that I was surprised to hear that.
Maybe my view there is that, there are wars, and wars are fought, and there's kind of a winner and kind of a loser. It's debatable if wars are ever won.
Right.
But if you never accept an outcome of a war, then what do you have? Endless war.
Well, that's exactly where we have it.
Israel is there. It's a country now. It now has a history. People live there. People identify as Israelis. Like, why go back and say no, it doesn't exist? Yeah, that's probably too much for me then.
Right. Okay. But yeah, but like I said, a lot of people are not on that page. A lot of people,
As I said, I know a lot about the American Civil War. Like, okay, then declare the Confederate States again. Like, no, let's do it over. We didn't lose. Let's do it again. You know.
Yeah. 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 Okay, so number six, we sort of spoke about this already. Whenever I mention some examples of atrocious behavior, so I categorize these as exceptions. Is it possible
That's
that
my
I am
impression.
also
That's my impression.
right? So yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I also, like I said, I don't know. I don't know when I'm looking at things if it's the exception or not. Like I keep on repeating, to me, it seems from all of the rhetoric that they all say, from the leaders all the way down in all the videos. Another example of something you will. I won't say never, because there was one time that people did film that there was some after several months ago in April there were a number of attacks in a small town called Huara, that there were Arabs that killed people, and then some people went into the town and killed a few Arabs in revenge, and they got arrested and everything. And that time, there were people that were celebrating it. There was a small group of Jews that they were celebrating. Yeah, they killed a few Arabs, right? So that, and
It was
again, that
horrible.
was
Mm,
it's
mm.
horrible. And in the newspapers and on the news, it was like a scandal in this country, and
It
nobody
should be.
supported it.
Mm, mhm.
Okay, right. But in the territories in Palestine, in every time that there's an attack, every single time, there are hundreds of people giving out sweets, giving out candies, celebrating every single time.
Oh, disgusting.
It's disgusting, and
If
that's
it's true,
also
it's
what's
disgusting.
it says to be what's considered to be the mainstream versus what's considered to be the exception. I want to show you this also. Again, I don't know what you see or not on your feed, but this is something that I couldn't believe that this happened. But this is right here. Let me share this with you. This was last week. When everyone is saying that
If
there's
if
no
if 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 we're going to share this stuff, I'm gonna share things from my side as well.
okay, but again,
Like for example,
you will not
that lady.
find. I got to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you right now. Okay, my
I will
challenge
I
to
will
you
I will I will
is
I will show you what they sent. People sent to me now.
okay. One second. I'm going to
Okay.
challenge you. Okay, ready? This is a video.
I don't want to bother you with
Just
these
one
things
second.
normally,
One
but I
second.
can.
Look at this video.
Mm.
Okay, this is thousands of people. Okay, this is thousands of
Okay.
people outside Shifa Hospital
Okay.
last week. This is going back to the 5th of November, right? Thousands. You can see all the way into the back there. TV, right? Thousands of people that are here, all watching on a big screen the atrocities of October 7th, right? This is Hamas set up an outdoor screen to show all of these people how proud they are of their atrocities. And you've got thousands of people gathering together, right, watching and cheering
Mhm.
on the atrocities of October 7th.
Well,
I challenge
I
you.
already know. I already know what pro-Palestinian voices will say to this. This is what you get after 70 years of torture. When you finally can hit your enemy, also, yeah, then of course you celebrate after 70 years of torture.
Well, okay, I
You know
understand, but
that you know they will say this. You know it.
I know that they'll say it, but now we both know that that's not true, right? There has not been 70 years of torture, right? Until 1967, there was no West Bank and Gaza. And even in Gaza since 2005, they've been free. And even in Gaza now, you know that there are mansions and luxury car dealerships and
Yeah,
vacation
but we've
villas.
spoken
And
about this. This is this tiny elite that
I
has.
understand, but that means that that's not us who's doing it to them. That's why we keep on going back and forth over the same idea.
I think I've already stated that I believe you when you tell me that the Palestinian leadership in Gaza they abuse their own population and then they live in some kind of palaces either in Gaza or outside of Gaza. I never
Okay,
contested that.
I hear it. But I would just tell
Mm.
you, I don't even think, and maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know, but if after the Holocaust, if there would have been a pogrom against the Germans, right, and let's say there would have been a bunch of Jews that went and hacked to pieces German babies and raped German women, I don't think the Jews would have cheered that on. I don't know. I don't know. I can't know, but I don't think you would have gotten thousands of people getting together to watch that and cheer it on. And
I actually would have I would have some understanding for that if they had done that right after the Holocaust.
okay, I
Would
don't
have been
know, but
horrible. Would have been horrible. But
okay,
yeah,
but then anyway. So I just want to point out to you what you're saying. So you're saying to me, so yes, it's true. It's not a fringe. It's true. It's the mainstream, and there's thousands and thousands of Palestinians that think this way.
what is the
But they're justified.
mainstream?
They're
What is the
justified to think
mainstream?
this. The
I didn't
masses
say
of
that it's the mainstream. I'm not saying
no,
that
no,
it's the
no.
mainstream, but I understand that some Palestinians feel like celebrating.
Well, okay, but
Um,
you
so
see a
I don't
picture
know if I
there
can
outside of a
can I also
central.
share something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait. Can I also share something?
Do I have to let you do a screen
So
share?
sorry.
Do I have to do something to let you share your screen?
Ah, and I probably also have to do something.
Here, one second. Let me say multiple. Okay, no, I think
Yeah,
you could do it. Yeah, can you share?
I think so. Um, do you see my screen?
No, not. Oh, here. One second. Now you can. One second. Okay, good. Now you can share.
So you see my screen now?
No, not yet.
No?
Try it again.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm not used to Zoom actually. Uh, so it's one of these people who watched our first two conversations, and she sent this video to yeah
Here we go. Yeah.
yeah okay, that's my son. So, Uh, here. Um,
Your Instagram, I could see. Yeah.
yeah. But it's very slow. Um, Probably you're not getting any sounds.
Oh, I saw. Okay, this is old. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what this is. This is it's disgusting.
You
It's
know it.
disgusting. But yeah, I'll tell you what it is. This is okay. First of all, okay,
Yeah.
a few things
Okay.
about both of these
So
videos.
I don't like to see this, so I would prefer not to watch it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this woman who comes to Israel in order to like stoke, people on Shabbat, right? On the Shabbat, she was there with a loudspeaker in a very religious community, right? On Shabbat, with breaking Shabbat in front of everybody,
Okay.
even though she's Christian, but it's disrespectful to the community, with this loudspeaker talking about Jesus and everyone has to accept Jesus and this. So yes, a bunch of the kids from the community, nobody attacked her, nobody beat her up, but they were being very disrespectful to her and very, I mean, I totally agree that's not okay and it's not
It's very
acceptable.
provocative.
And it's yeah, but she was
Mhm.
provoking people in a very religious neighborhood, dressed inappropriately with a loudspeaker on Shabbat. She was literally provoking that type of a response. And when it came to the spitting at those
Mhm.
people in that whole video, right, you see dozens of people going by, right, maybe even hundreds of people you see going by, and two people, one adult and then one child, spit in that direction. And they made a huge deal out of it, and they arrested those people. The people, I'll share you with the article. They arrested the people who spat
I believe
because
you. Mhm.
people made such a big deal out of it. So that's not the. You could see it's not the mainstream. If you would show me every single person walking by and spitting, that would be awful. But that's not what it is. In
Oh,
the
but
whole
this is what
discussion, you
people
see,
are. This is what people are seeing. It shapes
yes,
their perception of Israel.
yeah, okay, yes,
Also,
it
also
does.
mine. I admit, also mine. I'm trying to
I
be more critical. That's also why I'm having these conversations with you.
Yes,
Um,
I've said many times you're one in a million, I think, or 1 in 10 million. I think most people don't bother to try to understand. I think they don't. And it's terrible. And I recognize that we're not going to be able to reach everybody and explain to them what's going on. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is.
well, I
But
hope some people will watch this.
I hope so too. I hope so too. I
Not,
think it's a
I
very
doubt it will
important,
be many, but maybe somebody.
important conversations. Okay, so let's go back now. Number 7. What is the way out of this mess?
Yeah.
The way that you think as a total victory for Israel, and then what would happen after that, and there would be a tremendous cost to human life. Um, I don't know. This, like I said to you last time, also, there's two messes, right? There's one mess, which is the mess of Gaza right now, and how is that going to end? That's one mess, but there's a bigger mess, which is the whole situation between us and the Palestinians. And I have no idea. I have no idea. Like I said to you last time, I can't see Israel's approach changing.
Mhm.
Meaning, like, is it possible that there will again be a more leftist government? And maybe some of the things will change that's definitely possible. The government goes back and forth over time, but as far as an actual solution, I can't see that happening without a major change of leadership on the Palestinian side. Like when Abbas is going to die eventually, and I don't know who's coming up next. They never hold elections. They're in Hamas, and Abbas has been holding his position for 20 years now. Supposed to be elections and all, which is just ridiculous. But I hope that somebody more pragmatic will come in. I hope that somebody with more of a head for peace and more of a wants to actually make something work. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. I wish I had the answer. I really don't know. But like I said to you last time, Israel is not going to be doing any more suicidal deals, right? In other words, they're certainly, just like they gave up in Gaza in order to try to, they're not going to do that in the West Bank. They will not. They're not going to risk that entire area becoming a
Mhm.
terrorist den. They're just not going to risk it. So I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen
And
in Gaza afterwards.
what would you like to see?
I would like to see the Palestinian leadership that comes in. There are people, there are young people, mostly not in Israel, meaning they're not in the West Bank, they're in foreign countries because it's not safe for them to be here. But there are pragmatic Palestinian people, younger the generation, that does see a path towards peace and does see a way that this could come to, some sort of a resolution. I would love for one of those people to be in charge and to actually work with Israel and try to create some sort of a two-state situation. How is that going to happen now? And I don't know. I really don't know. I agree with you. It's very, very, very hard to picture how that could be.
I can't imagine a two-state solution. I how, with what, like, where would this country of Palestine be with what I see on the ground?
Right. I don't know. I
I
don't know.
don't know. No.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's a
Maybe it
very,
would have to be a three-state solution. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what the solution is. It's a very, very, very distressing, what I mean, thinking about the future, because I just have no idea what's going to be and how it's going to end up being. My main concern is that it shouldn't flare up into a bigger war. That's, with Iran constantly trying to make things happen. I'm hoping in Iran that the leadership will change at some point. There revolution, maybe it will happen over there. I don't know, but I don't know. It's very bleak. I agree. It's a very, very bleak future. And I agree with you that the people who suffer the most as a result are the regular average Palestinians, like the people that you met that just want to live, they just want to work, they just want to raise their family, they just want to, and they're pawns in a terrible, terrible chess game. And I don't know. I really don't know what the solution is. I don't know. It's a terrible,
And
terrible.
the solution I always offer is absorbing as many of them as possible into Israel and making them into Israelis. But I suppose you don't
Well,
see that as an option.
if they would actually like legitimately let's take a step back. Right? I'm sure you know about like all the migrants that moved into Europe and America over the past 20 years, and now
Mhm.
a lot of people are getting very nervous because these are people that moved into these countries and they don't
I,
accept that country's culture, they don't accept that
mhm.
country's mores, and now they're having very second thoughts like maybe we shouldn't have let all these people come in and be this way, right?
I have
So
some friends who are very vocal about that. Not me, but I know some people who it's
you
like
know,
on their minds constantly. Yeah.
yes, and certain countries in Germany, for example, like I don't know what's going to be there in 20 years. You know what I mean? It's really very interesting. We'll have to see.
Well,
So
in Belgium, we had an organization called Sharia for Belgium. I think the leader is in
wow,
prison.
wow,
Belkacem, I think is his name.
wow,
I could tell you a lot about Belgium if you want. Situation is also not so optimal. In the northern part, the probably the biggest party is a far right party. All other parties have had something called cordon sanitaire against them. They don't want to form a government with them, which angers a lot of people and probably helps them grow because they never get a chance to form a coalition or be part of a government. So yeah, I
wow.
know this problem quite well. You know,
Right. Right. So I just, so that we wouldn't stand for, meaning Palestinians that would want to become part of Israel, but that still don't believe Israel should exist and believe, what I mean? So that we're not going to do. But let's say if magically there would
yeah, it
be
would be like
Palestinians.
a. You're saying it would be like a Trojan horse.
Exactly, a Trojan horse, exactly. But if there would be a movement within the Palestinian people, and that they would, actually legitimately say, no, we recognize that, Israel is a Western democracy, and we recognize that this is a, so then I think most of
And
us would not have a problem.
again, I'm very cynical. Like a cynic is a disappointed idealist, right? Like deep down,
Yes,
I'm an idealist, but I became a cynic.
yes.
How would you know that? Like, how would you
Right. So
know
I think it's only
that they are
theoretical because
serious? That it's not just rhetoric?
correct. Yeah, I think it's only theoretical. But I'm just saying, theoretically, I don't think we would be against that. Practically, I don't see that happening for that exact reason, because I think it's impossible to know, and nobody's going to risk it. We're not going to risk, we're not going to risk that. So I really don't know. It's a very, very,
Mhm,
I don't know what's going to be in my lifetime, my children's lifetime. I
mhm.
don't know. It's very,
And
very
sorry, there's so much to unpack here that sorry.
always, yeah.
What I noticed in comments on our conversations was that uh, several people asked me why I don't ask you if oil and gas found offshore close to Gaza, if that plays a role, if Israel actually wants to find natural resources which are now offshore close to Gaza.
I don't know. I don't know. And that's why they let October 7th happen so
Yeah,
that they
yeah,
could go in and get
yeah,
them.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
I
connect
don't
the
know.
dots, connect the
I
dots.
don't know. I mean, I know that there's a huge off the northern shore. There's a huge resource that not connected to the Arabs. That Leviathan, I think they call it the Leviathan. There's like an enormous gas field. But I don't know. I
And this is
personally
being exploited at the moment, or it's just there.
no, no, yeah. I mean, they're working on it. They're developing it for sure. Yeah, together with American companies, they're working on it. But personally, if there would be a moderate, regular government in Gaza, and they would use that gas as a resource and be able to live, that would be great. If there would be an actual place of peaceful Palestinians that had a way to make money and to, what I mean, to live, that would be great as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I don't know if that's what's going on. I just don't know. Bibi didn't tell me. He didn't tell me.
Next time you call.
Yeah. Did the IDF shoot some of its own civilians in reaction to the
Yeah,
Al Aqsa
this
flood?
is what I keep seeing. I'm sure you know the gray zone. They
Yes.
have
Yes.
this idea, but to me, these are the same people who denied what happened in Bucha.
Yes.
No massacre there.
Yes.
I actually have a student. She's a doctor. She has a Ukrainian colleague. He went to Bucha to investigate. He said, worst thing I ever saw in my entire life, and he saw many terrible things. So
Yes.
when I have people denying Bucha and then saying that the IDF shoots its own people, I'm skeptical. But okay, it's
Right.
still
It's a
possible.
legitimate question to ask. I certainly hear that it's a fair question. It's possible that that happened in some instances. Certainly, in a crossfire, that could have happened. I
Like the
don't.
motivation would have been to avoid hostage taking, and they bring up something called the Hannibal
The
Directive.
Hannibal Directive. Yes, yeah, I'm very
But this
familiar with
is no
that.
longer enforced. This seems to be an old
That's
thing.
what they say. I don't. It's all very secretive. Nobody knows for sure or not. I don't know. I certainly hope that's not the case. You know what I mean? I certainly hope that that's not what they did. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. I certainly don't think that that's like in some places I've seen there's a Syrian girl or something like that, a poster on Twitter who like she says the vast majority of the people were killed by Israelis and Apache helicopters and all of this. I certainly don't believe that. I don't believe that the majority were killed. Is it possible that there were some that were killed, or that a house that had hostages and that they didn't know if they were alive or dead, and terrorists inside, and they shelled the house? I could believe that. I could. I don't know if that happened or not, but I could believe it. But I don't think that that was the majority by any means. There might have been some isolated instances where that happened, but that's definitely not being spread in the press over here. Other than that one article that was in it was then misquoted in Haaretz, and they had to rewrite it so that people shouldn't misquote them and say the wrong thing about it. But I don't know. Again, DP's not telling me all the details. I don't know. I certainly hope that that's not what I mean, what happened on any real scale. But
Mm-hmm. And this is
okay,
something else I wanted to ask you. Like
sure.
that came up late after I made this list. Like so I sent this tweet. You comment on it. Last time I checked, it had 250,000 views. And I comment on I kind of express my emotions after seeing the most terrible video that I've seen. So I wanted to ask you on from your side, like what was the worst thing that happened on October 7th? Because I admit that I'm less confronted by that, you know.
So I
So
mean, I
so
personally
so so
I
what
have
was the
not looked
worst
at.
that happened there? Like what shocked you there on that day?
I,
Did like this girl shocked me incredibly much. So
yeah,
on
I've
on your
tried
end.
not to. I've tried not to watch
Yeah, I get
any of them. Like,
I'm not looking for these things on purpose, you know. But
yeah,
they
yeah.
pop up.
I mean, I think the most. Let me just going to close the door here. I don't want my kids to hear anything.
Yes, of course, of course.
Like I said, I haven't seen many of them. I try not to watch them. I think it's not
Hmm.
good for the soul.
No,
I
no,
don't.
it's not. It's not.
Um, but to me, the most disturbing one that I saw was it wasn't even a Jew. It was a Thai worker, from Thailand.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
18 of them were
Thai,
killed.
yeah, I mean, a number of killed, a number of kidnapped, and
Agricultural workers.
yes, and this was a scene of a Thai person, and he's all bloody, but he's still alive. He's still conscious because his arms are moving, and he's like, lying on his back. And the video, they're talking. Someone says, "Bring me a knife, bring me a knife," and they didn't have a knife, but they had a garden tool, like a hoe, with a
Okay.
flat thing,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it wasn't even a Hamas person; it was a civilian, just like a regular guy in a t-shirt and jeans, and he's screaming over and over, "Allah Akbar," and just hacking away and hitting him in the face, hitting him in the neck, trying to cut his head off, and he's still alive. Like with every hit, the guy's arms like go up a little bit, and I don't know. To me, that was just so distressing that some, I'm sure that's not the worst of what happened. I'm sure it's not, but of the videos that I saw, to me, that was just like
Hmm.
very, very
Hmm.
disturbing. And again, like I said before, as much of my family that was killed in the Holocaust, and I'm very, very much, hate the Nazis and all of that, but I couldn't imagine being driven to that level of, just violence and butchery. I don't know. I don't know. It's very distressing, very distressing. And well, one of the things that you wrote in a different tweet, which you were, made your list of the most outrageous pro-Israeli things that were
Yeah, that
said.
was today. That was today.
Right. As I saw that, and you quoted Douglas Murray, who's not Jewish or anything, and he said that like he made a comparison to the Nazis, and he said like the Nazis at least had to get themselves drunk, and
Hmm.
and I mean their conscience couldn't
Hmm.
handle it. That's why they had to gas the Jews, was because
Hmm.
the soldiers couldn't continue
Yeah, they were
shooting.
too affected.
It was too affected. And he said, whereas over here, and the Nazis
Yeah,
like
they're
tried
enjoying
to
it. Yeah.
hide. They tried to hide their atrocities. They tried to cover it up. And here you have people who are reveling it and enjoying it and publicizing it. I do think that that's a fair point. I do think that that's a fair,
Well,
to us.
I actually read quite a lot about the Holocaust, and it haunts me. But there were some Nazis who
Of course,
really
there were.
enjoyed what they were
Of
doing.
course, the Stigweller
Like
group and all the.
guys who
Of
took it
course.
so far that the SS criticized them because they took it
Yes,
so
yes. There was that one guy. He had a whole unit of released prisoners from a psychiatric ward, and yeah, they did the most
yeah.
horrific things.
Mm.
But I think the reason that he wrote that, and it wasn't to make the Nazis look good or sound better. But I think his point is that like in our society nowadays, right, we take it for granted that like the Nazis are the worst of the worst, right? They did like the worst possible atrocities, and they went through with it, and they killed 6 million Jews, 3 million Polish people, every country they went through, and they just ravaged every single country, and to
Well,
point
to
out that they're
to be exact, like they were nicer in the West, let's say.
yeah,
The
yes,
worst things happened in
the
the East.
East,
But
yes,
yes,
yeah, yes,
generally, yeah, I agree.
yes. And to point out that like even them, even they sort of you could see that at least there was a conscience over there. There was something there that bothered them about what they were doing to some
Yeah,
degree,
yeah,
and to
yeah.
contrast
I
that with what we're dealing with today.
my favorite. It's a weird word, but my favorite Nazi is this Albert Speer guy, and he seems to have had this kind of psychological trick to willingly not know to the point that he didn't know but actually could have known. Like it's really strange psychological
Yes,
game. But yeah, it
yes.
shows that there is something like a conscience there at least.
Yes, and I think and many of them committed suicide, and so I
Hmm.
think his point was just to sort of to just make that point to people to look what we're dealing with here. Look at the level of depraved human beings that we're dealing with. That these are people that did things on the level of the Nazis, but without any conscience,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
proudly and happily and wanting everyone to see. I'm sure you saw that video of the person who he called his father and he said, Dad, I killed 10 Jews, 10 Jews, I
You
killed them.
told me about that, I think.
like it's
But
crazy.
I think in our Western mentality there's this idea that hurt people hurt others. So the reflex is what happened to that person that he's able to do that? Like what horrific things were done to that person that he became like that? But I think there you disagree. That
Uh,
nothing so horrible happened to that person to explain his behavior now,
Yeah,
right?
correct. Whereas again, I keep going back to 1929 and all the other massacres that happened. I think that as Western people, we don't relate to the mindset of a culture that is more barbaric than we are. There's such a thing as cultures that are more barbaric, right? And I,
Yeah,
I,
but
I
you understand that this sounds dangerous. Like you are taking 2 million people and saying that their culture is barbaric.
no, I'm not saying all of them are. I'm saying that
But
there is such a
you are
thing as
mentioning their culture, so
well, but if you speak to people who were in Afghanistan, who fought in Afghanistan also, and you speak to, I don't know if you know any of the, people, I don't know if Belgium sent people there or not, but
yeah, yeah.
I
Not to
spoke to
Iraq, but
somebody,
to Afghanistan. The Belgium army sent
I
some
spoke to
guys.
somebody from Poland who was there, who served, and I've spoken to some Americans who served, and they say the same things. They say just, there's a certain culture of a different sense of value to human life, a certain
Oh,
different sense of
but
value to suffering that is, you know,
specifically when we're talking about Afghanistan, what really shocked me is that some of these Taliban leaders like to chain young boys to their beds and use them as sex slaves. Like, what the hell is that?
so yeah, all sorts of crazy, crazy stuff that I think Western minds, thank God, Western minds don't relate to this thing in the same way. So I'm not painting the entire culture, not at all. At the same time, I think that it's foolish to ignore that Western people can't necessarily understand the mindset of everybody on the planet,
Mhm,
and not everybody
mhm,
does think the same way
mhm,
that we do, and not
mhm,
everybody does
mhm.
value the same things that we do. And I think
And
it's
and then and
important
then
to
and then
recognize that.
sorry again for interrupting. Um, then how do you explain all these videos with Americans and Jewish and non-Jewish and they visit Gaza or they visit Palestine and they come back and oh these are the nicest people ever and they're so
I'm sure there
generous
are
and
many of them that
we are
are
so
about that because
welcome there and
there's every different type of person, for
I also
sure.
felt incredibly welcome there.
I told you also the Arabs that I know that live in Israel that are here, they're wonderful, wonderful people. I sent you that video. I
Mhm.
think I
Yeah,
sent you
I
on
watched it.
WhatsApp
I watched it.
of the
Right,
four
they
Arabs that
came to
saved that
help. Yeah,
woman. And oh yeah,
no,
there's no question about it.
totally peaceful
Of
guys.
course, 100%. I'm not.
So,
That's what
but
I'm saying. I'm not
so,
painting
but what do you mean by their culture then?
the jihadi culture, the culture of people that are focused on jihad and focused on the violent way of living and who only speak the
And
language of violence.
what if this is a very vocal minority?
It could be that it is. It could be. That's what I'm saying. I'm not. But his point, Douglas Murray, the point that he was making is that the people who carried out these atrocities are not like us. That's what he was
Mhm,
trying to say with that tweet. That they're not like us. They're not. And
mhm.
just like you just said, even among the Nazis, there were a fringe
Yeah,
group who were beyond and did things that were way above and beyond that didn't care. Right. That's even in the Nazis. There was also a range of people, but he was saying that the people that we're dealing with, the people that are committed to this fight, the people that are committed to the struggle, who are the ones that are committing these atrocities, they're not like you and me. They're not.
mhm,
And again, it's not all of them. It doesn't
mhm,
mean that we should bomb all of them. God
mhm.
forbid. That's not what we're saying. But to also think that maybe these are people that
The sound is gone. Moshe, the sound is gone. Sound is gone. No sound. Hi. Yeah, so the screen is frozen.
My computer just rebooted right now. It just
okay.
Out of nowhere. So I guess we'll call it a day then for now.
Okay. If you send me the file, if you send me, you're back. Oh no, you're gone. If you send me the files, I can upload it, but it's a pity that it cuts off, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue. God willing, we'll continue.
Okay.
We'll continue. Okay, maybe Thursday again. Maybe Thursday.
Yeah, I would love to. This means a lot. Means a lot to me. Yes, good to talk. It's very necessary for me.
Likewise. I really appreciate your curiosity and your open-mindedness.
I'm very curious.
Intellectual honesty.
I try to be honest. It's not always easy.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah. We'll be in touch. It's also humbling, I must say. It's also humbling. I must admit that I don't know everything, and I admit that. I admit that.
I admit that. On things.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely appreciate your perspective and challenging me on things that I've not thought about maybe in a long time. Also, it's very important.
If you send me the file, I will try to make something out of it, even though it cuts off. Okay. All right. Thank you, Moshe. So enjoy your evening. Talk to you soon.
Likewise.
Take care. Take care. You too. Bye.